Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? And a happy Monday evening, and welcome back to the Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin. Thank you guys for tuning into tonight's program. It's been quite a while, so I guess let's catch up. Bear with me, but let's catch up here for a moment for all of us. All right. So how do I best put this or describe this journey through you guys? So as you guys, for those who have been listening to this program on and off lately, my name is Justin, and with this podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you guys want to consider this or call this program, I call this a show. It's been going on since August of 2021, and it's grown up, through friends, former friends, family, colleagues, etc., etc. And it's had this roller coaster. It's been up and down, and I ended up taking some breaks, from being exhausted. Well, this last couple of weeks, I've been really trying to put on episodes, but the problem is that there's been just the best way I could put it is life happens. And so I would always put mental health and family first before anything else. And that's kind of been the case the last few weeks. Been taking more of a mental break for me. Been also just kind of clearing my mind, being able to now just think about sports. As a matter of fact, when I took the mental break, I stepped away from sports, kind of still paying attention here and there, but most likely, more than likely, I was away from sports, hanging out with the family, doing what I need to do. I just didn't have, there was a sense of urgency and energy that I did not have, or I lacked of, that kept me from doing this program. So I started back up a couple weeks ago, and that, between meetings and appointments, and all I can say is right now I'm kind of out with an injury, a work-related injury. Been out since October of last year. We're still trying to kind of piece together the puzzle there. So, it's kind of been all over the place the last several weeks. Last week, I ended up calling a couple of baseball games. But the one thing is for certain is that I have the passion, the energy, the motivation to keep on coming back and to give you content. And that's why I'm back again tonight. I believe we're on the back end of that. And, summertime is here. We have a lot of things to look forward to as NBA, NHL winds down, the full swing of Major League Baseball. We head to the summer events of, professional wrestling, especially in the WWE with SummerSlam, and then we get ready to look forward to football. So we got a good amount of stuff on our list to still talk about and go over, and hopefully getting back into the swing of things, which is the only downfall I believe is going to happen, is the swing of things. Well, once I get past that, I'm really excited for, getting this up and going, and hopefully I can continue calling ball games. Because if you guys tuned in to any games last week, I called a game on Memorial Day, I called a game on Wednesday, and I called a game on Thursday. It was the Pirates and Giants, the it was Nationals and no Phillies and Mets, and then it was Minnesota and Cleveland. Those were the three games, and I like calling games. I really enjoy them, especially when they're entertaining games. And so we had a couple of them last week. So we'll continue that and all the other stuff. So I apologize for those who have been tuning in to this program on a daily basis and being gone for so long. But I'm excited to be back, and we're working on so many new things. Just because I have been gone does not mean content has not been created. You guys can check out our TikTok page. I've been working along with Terry and Enlighten Studios as we come up on some of these festivals down the road, and we are also, I'm talking to a buddy down the street who runs a convenience, not a convenience store, but a store called Aspire and Glow. So he's been, just kind of promoting his stuff. So we're still very much here, still very much active. It's just in a different way. So, but just glad to be back. So, me, I'm not normally a first thing in the afternoon, type of person, all the sports events and whatnot. It's been going on. And I will tell you that this episode, I am going to do my very best not to give you guys any disclosure of what's happening in case you guys have not watched Raw yet. But we will be talking about it tomorrow, and that's why I have it kind of on in the background, is so I can pay attention and kind of keep things going, as a couple things are happening tonight on Raw. We have more of the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. Becky Lynch will take on Sonya Deville, and Natalia will take on Zoe Starks, as we look forward to Money in the Bank July 1st in London. That's exciting. So we have those matches. We will also see the Miz TV with their host or the special guest, Cody Rhodes, who recently challenged Brock Lesnar to yet again another match. So we will talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But then we will see Seth Rollins defend his World Heavyweight Championship against Damian Priest. And so the story is now open, right? The first official challenge coming towards this World Heavyweight Championship, which Seth Rollins declared last Monday, as the champion, World Heavyweight Champion, that he's ready and willing to defend it anytime, any place, anywhere, which I think is a great thing. If Paul Levesque sat there and promoted and said, hey, this title is going to be able to compete anytime, anywhere, any place, you need that type of athlete. There's also Seth Rollins, I believe, was also given that World Heavyweight Championship, in my personal respect, by the default. If you think about anyone in that locker room, right, and no disrespect, to AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes has his own, problems with Brock Lesnar, which we'll talk about here in the opening segment. But if you look at anyone else in that locker room, or specifically anyone else on that Raw roster, there is not a single person who I think can carry Monday Night Raw to its finest. We're not, Brock Lesnar doesn't need the title. I think of maybe Drew McIntyre, but right now he's been dealing with contract issues. Randy Orton's out of service. I really don't quite believe he needs a title. And then you get Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Seth Rollins is, he carried the Monday Night Raw specifically for the past year. I mean, who other way is to represent Monday Night Raw and to help, kind of store some, respect out of this World Heavyweight Championship other than Seth Rollins. And he's a guy, who's taken to social media over the last several months. He had a match with Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And he's one of those guys, to me, okay? He's one of those guys who, you can go to, you can depend on, you can rely on when it comes down to scenarios. So why not give him the face of the company? And he like I said, he's been on social media. He's been talking about how, listen, I'm a wrestler. I love wrestling. And there's people on the outside should not be coming in. So we will see Damian Priest and Seth Rollins for that World Heavyweight Championship tonight on Raw. So those are things that we're looking towards tonight that we will talk a little bit more about tomorrow. But I want to talk about a couple of subjects that we will see more unfold tonight on Raw. And I'm going to first start off with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, which now they're tied up in a so-called series one apiece. Cody Rhodes ended up pinning Brock Lesnar back at Backlash. And then we also saw Brock Lesnar beat Cody Rhodes in Saudi Arabia, Night of Champions. Cody Rhodes last week on Memorial Day has come out and said, hey, listen, Brock, we're 1-1. I won one. You won one. Why not fight one more time? Who's the best of the best? And, Cody Rhodes has said some things. Oh, you're someone, if you don't accept my open challenge, then you're afraid. Okay. For someone who doesn't get knocked down. And Cody Rhodes, right off the bat, I will tell you this about Cody Rhodes. He is someone who doesn't get knocked down. And when was the last time you saw an actual athlete, despite what you've seen in a single match, despite everything, because we've had Brock Lesnar has had some great opponents over the last 10 years. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. Men who have not stayed down. John Cena. But when was the last time that we actually got a chance to see, a athlete who has not only defeated Brock, but kept on going after him, and said, all right, let's go toe again. You want to fight? Let's give you the fight. I have yet. I mean, I remember guys like John Cena, maybe Roman Reigns, but those are years apart. Cody Rhodes in this short time frame has been tackling on the beast. And, after WrestleMania, Rhodes makes it clear that, his job is not done. He's going to work his way back, earning a title shot against Roman Reigns, against that Universal Championship. And at first, the night after WrestleMania, I was kind of distraught because I didn't quite know what direction, Cody Rhodes was going to have to go down, what opponents he was going to have to go through until Brock Lesnar appeared. And then we saw Brock Lesnar at his finest. And I'm like, all right, what a shame it would have been if it was a one-off. Thank goodness it wasn't. And then, now we see two matches and they're tied one apiece, and we have to see one more. This is that proper feud that we are wanting to see. And all this is doing is giving Cody Rhodes time away. One, Brock Lesnar is doing one hell of a job helping Cody Rhodes get back to where he needs to get to, and that's relevancy in the WWE, in the title picture. I mean, because if you could take a series out of Brock and Cody could take 2 or 3, well, guess what? You definitely earned yourself something, at least that much more closer to a potential title. But my biggest question is what is Cody's plans after Brock Lesnar, which is right now showing signs for a WrestleMania match? What is Cody Rhodes' plans after Brock Lesnar? That is my, I think, ultimate question. Because you could re-spark the feud between Cody and Seth. But in the back of my mind, and maybe my mind is very different than your mind, but in the back of my mind, I sit here and I say, okay, Cody Rhodes' dream does not get completed until he defeats Roman Reigns and that Universal Championship. Understandable? Maybe, possibly. But that's where I stand. What's next for Cody Rhodes? I mean, for me, I'm looking at this as a SummerSlam match, and I guess we'll see. Another SummerSlam opportunity match that is setting up, and it's actually turning out to be a lot more interesting than originally, thought of. I was getting the word of Trish and Becky was going to be a SummerSlam match. Now, at the very beginning, I thought if this was going to be a SummerSlam match, I thought Becky and Lita would carry the tag team titles for a while, maybe even go up against a team like Shayna and, Ronda Rousey. And then at some point, see Trish turn their back and then lead to a WrestleMania match. But instead, Trish, Becky had their match in Saudi Arabia, a week ago, and obviously the feud's not done. Now, what has sparked interest, in my opinion, in this feud is the fact that they're bringing other talent to get involved, such as Zoe Starks. And I think it's important because you're not just telling a story between two Hall of Famers, Becky Lynch, a future Hall of Famer, but you're telling a story, of the definition of this women's division. All right. Becky Lynch is one of the pillars who, a decade ago brought this women's division to relevancy. And yet it was Trish who was one of the few who really brought the women's division alive. It was along the females such as, Lita and Victoria and, Sable and Tori Wilson. But these are two different generation, and it's a great, it's turned into a really good feud. And you have to be able to, I think, in this, here's my only downfall of this feud is that we have seen this match a week and a half ago between Trish and Becky. And what we've seen was, a lot of people are pointing out these quote unquote botches. Well, let me put this in the best perspective as possible. Trish has not been in that ring competing for several years. I actually expect Becky to carry the match as much as possible. And listen, I'm not making excuses. I know it's hot, even though it's indoors, but I think they still did one hell of a job. They got the story over. It was completed. But now, the more matches that Trish has now, especially involving into this rivalry, less and less mistakes have to be made in order to complete and sell everything that they want to tell. But two quite interesting stories coming up throughout the course of Monday Night Raw, which hopefully we will enlighten later on. What's going on in our show today? Well, the Reds and the Brewers are going underway. They're going through their game today. We'll give you a scoring update when we come on back. Want to talk about Elly De La Cruz and why is he the most intriguing prospect of Major League Baseball? We'll get you some all-star information as voting's opened up. We'll talk about the NHL and NBA finals as they get underway, some weekend sports news around the world, Pete Alonso breaking some records, and then we'll also talk about that 1,000-day celebration, new titles for the World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal Championship, thoughts on the new titles, and the Civil War, has it started among the bloodline? So a lot of that to come. 2 hours of the program just getting back underway. My name is Justin. If you guys are watching us on our YouTube page, be sure to hit that like, that share, and that subscribe button. Don't forget to have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Be sure to tune in. Hit that like button, share it with a friend, let us know that we're live. Head on over, comment down in our YouTube page, get involved into the conversations, and much more. All right, we're going to take a break. TNC Sports Talk returns with the throw-in right after this. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a great night. $8:25 here on the throw-in. Welcome on back to the throw-in here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We'd like to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the throw-in. StreamYard Studios, where you can create your podcast, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. So I guess the biggest part for me is just getting right back into the swing of things. It may take a while for me to get back in the swing of things, but I'm sure we will, probably take a couple episodes. I should be fine afterwards. I will tell you, and I'm venting. I'm not complaining, but one thing I'm finding difficult only, 30 minutes into doing this program is that, I am a type 2 diabetic and, I'm 28 years old and I just, I think it's fair to say that I am very distraught and I'm not very great at keeping up with taking, the things and the medications that I need to take care of myself. And I'm probably not the only person that is like that, but something along that line. So, I'm back on my medication, about a month ago, and I recently started this medication called Ozempic. And, I've been having to give myself a weekly in check. So first of all, I don't hate needles. I despise needles. But, not the greatest, especially, where you have to place, put the needle in. And, and last week really bothered him with my stomach. Almost really didn't eat for days. That kind of wear off. today comes back around, got to inject myself, and I'm like, oh, great. And I'm starting to feel, because I didn't feel this. I felt the side effects right away last week when I took it. This week I didn't feel it for the first couple hours, and now I ate dinner, made myself some enchiladas I haven't had in a while, and now it's wanting to kick in, and I just my stomach is knotted up, but that's a little struggle that I'm dealing with this episode coming back. Man, I'm also knotted up because the Reds were on a nice 5-game winning streak, heading back home, and they just for some reason find it very difficult to take care of business against the Milwaukee Brewers. The Cincinnati Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers are currently in progress. Game 4 of a 4-game series, bit awkward at Great American Ballpark, where we had Julio Teheran on the mound for Milwaukee. He's 1-1 with a .82, taking on Andrew Abbott, who has not have anything recorded on the stat line. Milwaukee comes into today's game 32-27, first in the NL Central, as the Reds are 26-33, moving down to 4th place. I think from last time we had this conversation, the Reds, was down in last place with the 5-game winning streak. And I'll tell you how close this division is right now, and this is why I like it so much, because it seems to be anybody's ball game. They moved from last place to 3rd place over a week span of 5 games. And then the Reds coming into this Milwaukee series had an opportunity, a strong opportunity. Well, hey, you take 3 or 4, you're a game back, or you're even in first place yourself. And I just thought, wouldn't that just be amazing? We would come on this show today and say just how great Cincinnati is. They get a chance to hold first place, even if it's for a day. And so, for me, I was all for it. And then they dropped 3 or 4, 3 so far playing tonight against Milwaukee. And I'm like, oh no, you just basically wasted everything that you did at Wrigley and in Fenway. And I tell you, playing in Chicago and in Boston. Now, hey, I've never been to Chicago. I've never been to Boston, and I can't tell you personally how it is, but I could tell you that there is a struggle. All right, whenever you go to Wrigley, whenever you go to Fenway, these are 2 historical ballparks that you really have to. It's an honor to play there, and you talk about honorary, and you have a young team like Cincinnati to go in there and sweep Chicago at Wrigley Field. And I know they play them a few times a week, a year. It's still something remarkable to be able to talk about, and stories that you generate saying, all right, we played in Chicago. I played at Wrigley, one of the oldest stadiums in baseball today. I played at Fenway. I hit a home run off the Green Monster. Those are conversations for a lifetime. So it's kind of also a moment, especially like Boston, because you only go once a year, and you probably go back every other year now with how the schedule's been made. But now it's like, just cherish every moment. And now the Reds came back and faced Milwaukee. The problem is dropping 3 games of 4 against Milwaukee. And if they could hold up a victory tonight, as right now they lead 2-0 and halfway through the game, is that with this new schedule that the Reds have, right? And when I say about the new schedule is that the Reds now play all 29 of the ball clubs, which means that they play less of their division. And with that being said, you run into the every scenario, every series, every game, especially against your division, is crucial. And you have to be able to pick up victories. And it's great to go pick up a victory against St. Louis, Chicago, Pittsburgh. But when you can't do it to the first place Milwaukee, it's how you expect it to contend in September. And trust me, I know a lot of fans are calling saying, hey, the Reds are out of it right now. But I'm honestly sitting here telling you that it's anybody's division. And I don't know how long the Reds can stay in contingency. They seem to go back and forth. And right now, you're looking at the standings at the beginning of, and I have an error on this. I didn't update it. So it's actually June 4th as of today. You're 6 games back. St. Louis had a nice 7-3 run 3 weeks ago, and they were holding third place. Chicago was in last. So it seems to me right now the bottom 3 teams are going back and forth. They're about 5 games back. And Milwaukee has a chance to really blow this division out of proportion, with Pittsburgh being a half a game back. But overall, don't you kind of maybe feel that this division has a chance, if you could play 500 baseball, that you have a ultimate chance at least contending all the way up to end of August to September? And if you are the Reds, who a lot of people projected to be dead last, to be able to throw back at the end of the season and say, hey, listen, we're in the, we contend into September, it's a huge step. And it's a big step, especially including the idea that we've had, we are making this change, this elemental change of Matt McClain and who came up, Andrew Abbott and Brandon Williamson and all that stuff. So it's pretty interesting to take a look at that line over there. The rest of the division looks like this tonight. Milwaukee and Cincinnati's underway. So is Pittsburgh hosting Oakland, one of the worst records in baseball. Thank goodness we're not them this year. And I think that's just a plus, on top of not finishing in last place. And then we also have St. Louis and over in Texas facing the Rangers. So it's going to be a bit interesting moving, how this division's going to be. But another interesting part is going to be the All-Star game, which is, I think, really, really exciting to have. The 2023 All-Star, which is going to be in Seattle. The voting is underway. And this is how it's going to be presented. All right. Between now and June 22nd of 2023 until noon, voting can be done at MLB.com, your favorite club's webpage, or on the MLB app. You can vote up to 5 times every 24 hours. And the starters will be announced later that day on the MLB network. Now, this is exciting. We have a couple young people that have gotten a chance to play some ball and really earn their way. And here's right now where the voting per position lies. Starting off at the catcher spot is Tyler Stevenson. And I have to say, I'm a bit impressed how long Tyler Stevenson has been in the circle at catcher. I thought he'd be playing a bit more of a first base role. But I think the way that the Reds have had this really solidifies, okay, what they, I think it works out for the best. So Tyler Stevenson, you could vote now as a catcher. For the first base, it was a bit interesting, but you have Spencer Steer, Jonathan India at second base, Nick Senzel at third, and he's been doing a remarkable job at third. Shortstop Matt McClain, And then we have 3 outfielders, Jake Fraley, TJ Friedel, Will Myers, and for your designated hitter, Joey Votto. So that right there, you go ahead and vote for your Reds. You can vote up 5 times a day or 5 times every 24-hour period, either on the MLB app, MLB.com, or one of your favorite or one of your ball club's website. So I feel like if you're going for Cincinnati, just head over to Cincinnati.com and be able to vote. And that will end June 22nd of 2023. So that's a bit interesting, exciting also to get. Great. Had the wrong things on. I apologize. All right. Bottom of the hour. Vote today. Vote for your All-Stars today. You vote 5 times every 24-hour period. And on the MLB app, MLB.com, or the favorite or your fan page club. Okay. When we come on back, we will get to talk about Elly De La Cruz and why is he the most intriguing prospect of Major League Baseball. That's all still to come. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Welcome on back here to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to talk to you a little bit about the upcoming festivals, and we're going to begin with this upcoming one here, July 8th, 9th, and 10th. 8th, 9th. Do I have the calendar correct? It's the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And it's going to be the Cincinnati's Italian Festival down there on the levee. And, Lightning Studios came to me, and they do a lot of volunteer work. And they're in a nice incorporation. They do a lot of volunteer work back for the community. And one of the things that they like to do is they like to volunteer at these festivals. And they got 3 festivals that they're including themselves in this year. They're actually the 4th one. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. They were included into a Taste of Cincinnati festival, which was which was nice. It was a last minute thing, but they're taking part of this year's Italian Festival, Taco Festival, and the Celtic Festival throughout the month of June and July. And they would like to extend their offer and ask you to volunteer. Volunteers get to keep their tips, and if you volunteer at all of the festivals, you get a chance to win some prizes. For more information, sign up informations, email enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com. You could also check Enlighten Studios out on Facebook as well. But slots are filling up, and be sure to get your slots at enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com. Last week to do so. Hopefully it turns out to be a good event for them as well. Elly De La Cruz, one of the most intriguing prospects of Major League Baseball today. We'll tell you about that when we come on back after this quick ad. Alrighty, be sure to check out our good friends over there at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. Check out Steve Barber, Dwayne Davis as they catch you up to date on highlights, news, and stories lingering around the wrestling world. Anywhere from the indie circuits to our backyard wrestling, all the way to the professionals in WWE, AEW, and much more. If you want to know anything about wrestling, check out Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. You'll not be disappointed. They're on YouTube and anywhere you listen to your podcast. All right, let's talk about Elly De La Cruz, the most intriguing prospect heading in so far this year in 2023. Entering Sunday's game. Entering Sunday's game, De La Cruz entered play batting .299, .398 OBS, and a .636 slugging. 12 home runs, 1130 stolen bases, and 37 AAA games. Okay? He's only second compared to Jackson Holliday, who is .358, .483, .606. And they're only De La Cruz is 21, Holliday is 19. But he's on the path for a 45 season, which, by the way, if he can accomplish that, no player in history has ever accomplished that goal. In an article, they shared 3 key lookouts, intriguing information in comparison on just how good Elly De La Cruz is. So let's go ahead and talk about that here moving forward. Coming up to lead things off, Elly De La Cruz velocity exceeds 93 miles an hour, to 53.8%. He's averaging a launch angle 6.8. And you compare that with guys in the major leagues today. Ronald Acuna Jr., Yandy Diaz, J.D. Davis, Juan Soto. Very similar. And, this is a really good, and you're thinking about this is a number that is being distributed among the minor leagues only. De La Cruz has vast potential. And yet, he hasn't even played a single game for the Cincinnati Reds at the major league level quite yet. Now, this guy gets you something to talk about. Okay, and this is why we're talking about him more. All right, his average launch angle when he hits anything higher than a 95-mile pitch or higher jumps up from a 6.8 to 11.4. He hits the ball extremely hard. That's the way to it, and he's doing it at the AAA level. You could expect that number to jump 1 to 2 points higher at the major league level, hopefully, when he gets called up. Coming in at number 2 in this opinion, it has to be the potential platoon problem. All right? He does strike out 27% at the plate, mainly against southpaws. He has a higher percentage. Is in 29.5% against left-handers, 25.8% against right-handers. Left-handed pitcher, he swings 47% of the time. He makes contact about 58% of the time, and then he chases 34.5% of the time. Right-handers, he swings 38%, contact is 72%, chase is only 24%. So he has a better eye against right-handed pitchers. I say he swings about the same among, with that being said, case, that's why his swing is higher against left-handers, because he chases more. But let me put it to you this way. Contact is still above 50% when it comes down to left-handed pitchers. And I take that any day. Now, yeah, he may swing out just a bit more. But here's my case for Cruz. I will take anyone. If you strike out, once every game, but you could put up the numbers that Cruz is putting up, 12 home runs, 11 stolen bases, 299 batting average. When he hits that bomb, then I take the strikeouts. I don't care how you get out. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I would like you to advance runners. I would like you to sacrifice fly. I would like you to put the ball in play in the case, because he does have, an intellectual speed that goes along with his, bat, with his arm strength. But if you're telling me that I'm going to have a guy, his exit velocity is just as good as major league ball players. He's already hitting in 37 games. He's basically a 333 average versus home runs. And then he can steal bases. Why isn't he up at the big leagues level? He's shown every sign that he could be at the big league level. No. And I think this comes back around to one final thing, right? Long-term positions unclear. And this is probably a good challenge, a good problem for the Reds. You think of the guys who are making, the overall concept for the Reds 2023 is to bring players up from the minor leagues, guys like Noelvi Marte, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Elly De La Cruz, Andrew Abbott, Matt McLean, so forth, as a seeded fit. But so what did the Reds do? They stacked up on these guys in the minor leagues. They established a major league roster. They put these minor league guys that they're looking to be their team in the next 2 to 3 years. And they said, all right, throughout the course of the year where we see needed fit among these positions, like Jose Barrera doesn't perform at short, Nick Senzel, something happens to him in center. Will Myers gets cut underneath him. Joey Votto doesn't pan out. We have these guys that can come up, and these are guys that we're planning on coming up eventually. Well, there's two things that I quickly see, and one is patience. Right, I think that's been the key element of this year: patience. We have so many players that can deserve an opportunity, and we're seeing them. Andrew Abbott tonight, Brandon Williamson's coming up. We're seeing Matt McLean come through. We're seeing Spencer Steer jump over from third to first, and Nick Senzel playing third again, which I was a bit shocked to see. And then we look at the guys already down in the minor leagues: Noelvi Marte, Edwin Arroyo, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Cam Collier, Sal Stewart. I'm like, well, why rush? Second of all, he's 21 years old. You bring him up to the big leagues now, there's no saying that he gives, that he doesn't get into some slump, and then we kind of all shake our heads like, oh no, here's this is what our decision was. I mean, it's great seeing, the talent down there thriving, but it is also a very detailed strategy, because you realize by the time that you call Cruz up to the major leagues, you need to be sure that the team is ready to perform, because then when you call them up, that clock starts ticking. And you just re-sign Hunter Green. You're working on some of these other contracts with Nick Lodolo and Graham Ashcraft, and you don't want to make mistakes. And this is a huge mistake that you could make. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see, if we didn't go see, De La Cruz come up in September, unless there was a significant injury that really required him. Listen, I think he's a time slot guy. Plus, where is he going to play? Matt McLean is doing great at shortstop. Nick Senzel is doing solid in third base. What, you bring him up as a utility guy? I wouldn't. I mean, everyone right now seems to be playing really good baseball for the Reds. And it doesn't give me any reason why I need to rush him. Now, the other thing is let's face it. We don't really expect to see the Reds do anything or go anywhere this year. Right? I mean, I don't. This ball club was most definitely not built around going and playing in the playoffs past September. And if anything is played past September from the Reds, it's pure luck. It's pure belief. So why rush back? I wouldn't personally, but that's just me. All right, hour number 1 is done. We've finally gotten through. Hour number 2 is coming up next. In hour number 2, we still have a lot to talk about NHL, NBA finals going on. Sports, Alonso breaking some records. I want to talk about the celebration that turned into a civil war back on Friday Night SmackDown, as well as thoughts of the new titles officially between the World Heavyweight Championship and that Universal Championship. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. The Throne will be back here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 of the throw-in is given to you thanks to Spreaker from iHeartRadio. Spreaker is the number 1 source of uploading podcast episodes. If you guys have a podcast and looking to see detailed analytics and be able to monetize, upload more than one podcast at a time, and much more, check out Spreaker.com. If you guys miss any of this, you have to take our show on the road. Be sure to head over to Spreaker. You guys can download the throw-in on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, so much more. Be sure to head on over to our webpage at www.tncsportstalkshow.com for where you can find all the blogs, videos, podcasts, episodes, everything there channel related you can find on our webpage, www.tncsportstalkshow.com. Alrighty, hour number 2. We got a pretty nice hour number 2 coming ahead of you. But first, we want to pay our respects to a great manager and a pitcher in his career, Roger Craig, who passed away yesterday from February 17, 1930 to June 4, 2023. Former Giants manager and 3-time World Series champ Roger Craig dies at 93. Craig won 3 World Series as a player. Also led the Giants to an NL pennant as a manager. He was known for his managing career. who started back in the 70s, where he managed the San Diego Padres from 1978 to 1979. Then he managed the San Francisco Giants from 85 to 92. His career status finished 586 to 566, winning record for each of his first 5 years as manager. Won a division title for San Francisco. First time since 1962. As a player, he pitched 12 years in the big leagues, debuted as a Dodger in 1955. He also played for both Brooklyn and for Los Angeles. He also played for the Mets, the Cardinals, Reds, and Phillies later on in his career. Best season was 1959, where he averaged a 2.06 ERA with 13. He was the 13th MVP voting runner-up. Won 2 World Series with the Dodgers and 1 with St. Louis. As a player, pitched in 368 games, managed 1,475 games. As we remember the life and pay tribute to the long great Roger Craig. I tell you, these things are never easy. It becomes a complicating story. Pass on with a loss, but you make the most of it. So NHL Stanley Cup playoffs continue tonight as the Golden Knights are up 2-0 in the first period against Florida Panthers. Vegas leads 1-0 in the series. Both, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand that maybe despite Vegas, Florida has a very similar road path throughout the playoffs as Miami Heat. And, Miami Heat took game 2 last night of a best of 7 in the NBA Finals, 111 to 108. Miami, I think, I think the bigger question was, has Miami found the way to overcome Denver? Denver is your top team. Denver is number 1. Miami had to take all their opponents from Milwaukee to Boston all the way to game 7. They came back from being down to winning, and now this series is back in tied, and it's actually a scary point of view when you see Nikola Jokic put up 41 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists in yesterday's big game, but they still lost 111 to 108. Miami was down by 15 points at one point of this game. They were down by 8 heading into the fourth quarter. Denver lost at home Denver's lost at home for the first time since March 30th. That's 10. I feel like that's just incredible. Since the playoffs, they have not lost at home. Nikola Jokic becomes a 14th different player to score at least 41 points in the NBA Finals and lost. When you put up 41 points, you think of this is an annihilation game. Should be a put-away game. But what was, I think, the key strategy here was, like I mentioned, Miami figured out a way to beat Denver. And there's 3 categories that you have to consider in the factor of beating your opponent. 1 is points, 2 is rebound, and 3 is assist. And if you can stop 2 of 3, you're going to be able to walk away victorious. And one thing that you have, and realistically, it's down to 2 because no one can play against the rebound. but you could play against the points, and you could play against the assist. And what Miami discovered last night is that allow Nikolai to score as many points as he wants, because he's the only guy throwing up 40 plus points. Everyone else was under 10, under 20. And when you have a player, let him score. But what you don't do is you don't let him rack up the assist. You avoid the triple double. You avoid the double, And if you could avoid the triple double from Nikolai and everyone else, you have a better chance. So what did Miami do? They sat there and they beat Denver by saying, all right, listen, rebounds. I can't control rebounds. I have no say in rebounds. But what I can do is give Nikolai the points. Let's play defense and just avoid the assist. Keep him one-on-one, make him make those points. Don't give him anyone else that you can attend to around the rim. And then let's take the ball back as soon as possible. Let him go put up 30, 40 points a game, because he ain't going to beat us single-handedly when it comes down to having our five guys scoring. And I think it's a great basketball play, because I think now you realize that Jokic is the best player on the Denver side. And now you can figure out, okay, this is how we need to attack him. Let's not do no fancy plays, no bells and whistles. We're here because we want to win. How are we going to win? We eliminated one of the three key figures. One of them, we can't help it, but we eliminated one. We make sure everyone else is covered. We let Jokic do all the work. We come back down and we take care of business. And that's how Miami beat game 2 of this series. And honestly, I believe that's how Miami is going to win the NBA Finals, if they can keep playing something like that. Because you're asking. I mean, Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent putting up 20 plus points. This is going to be a walk to the park, in my opinion, as long as this remains in the hands of Nikolai. Because right now, Nikolai's the only guy you can throw to, that you can rely on putting in, the points. So Denver's going to have to come into game 3 tomorrow night and figure something out. Figure out just how they're, how they get a ball away from Nikolai and find a second or third string, third player out there that could put up, 20, 30 points as well. We'll have to see, but it's going to be an interesting NBA final stretch. I believe it could go 6-7 games in this standpoint. I mean, you can't compare to Jokic 18 points in the third quarter alone. According to Miami sources, Tyler Hero is unclear for his return for game 3. Played 2-on-2 back on Saturday. He broke his hand back in game 1, round 1 against Milwaukee. So that is that. So as we mentioned, Stanley Cup Finals, the Vegas Golden Knights won game 1, 5-2. Game 2 is going on right now. ECHL Kelly Cup Finals as well. Game 3 will be Wednesday at 7:30, where we have Florida, who is up 2-0 in this play. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come on back, we got more news lingering around the world of sports. as well as Pete Alonso breaking a record at Citi Field. We'll tell you all about that coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We would like to give a special thanks to Canva, where you can create presentations, videos, flyers for all social media platforms or wherever you like. Canva is the #1 online tool for that creation. Thanks to Canva, you guys could view the overlays that we have, the videos that we've created, all that fun stuff that we've included. Thanks to Canva. For more information, check out canva.com. Also like to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound that provides the music on this program. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Also got to talk about our good friends with Aspire and Glow. Meet Tony at Inspire and Glow down here in Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Has all the old vintage apparels between shirts, rock and roll t-shirts, precious gems, clothing, incense, jewelry, you name it. If not, he gets it. Man, great guy. We'll be working on some ads for him, but you got to give him a shout out here as well. Aspire and Glow. Check them out on social media. Alrighty, let's get right back down into business. Gosh, we're getting ready for the weekend news. So, I guess I'll start off with this news update. Soccer match in Argentina was postponed after a fan falls 50 feet to his death. On Saturday, there was a game between River Plate and Defensa y Justica. The game was suspended during the first half after a fan died in a fall at the Estadio Monumental. It was a 53-year-old man. Shortly after the game began, he fell. As the officials saw the urgency of everyone rushing to the place of the incident, they decided to suspend the game until further notice. Our condolences goes out to the friends and family of the man that passed away over the weekend. Kyle Busch's victory in his first at Gateway and third this season, tying William Byron for the Cup Series lead. Busch holds off Denny Hamlin in OT over the weekend and a win in Enjoy Illinois 300. Congratulations to Kyle Busch. You know, my thing is about Kyle Busch is that he's one of those racers that I got the privilege to grow up watching, just like Jimmy Johnson and all, Carl Edwards, all those racers. And as they slowly, retire and move on, and you see younger guys, and it's kind of like it's reminiscent. I tuned into the preemie, I believe, when they're announcing the names, in the lineup for the race this weekend, and it was just like I didn't hear anybody that I could really recognize. It's just kind of like that era of racing. So new era, but Kyle Busch still hangs in. He picks up a victory, and things are all good now. Cleveland's Tristan McKenzie strikes out 10 in season's debut. as Cleveland's rotation gets healthier. Cleveland's uh, Guardians Guardians splits a 4-game series over Minnesota with the win on Sunday. And that was one that we called game 1 on Thursday night between Minnesota and Cleveland. I knew it was going to be a good series, and Minnesota had a nice walk-off win earlier on that day. And Minnesota always has difficulties facing teams, Cleveland in the past. And Minnesota last year they're leading the NL Central for the first half of the season, and somehow, some way, some shape or form, Minnesota goes down and Cleveland surpasses them once again. And so they're trying. I'm obviously Minnesota's trying to fix that and change things, but overall, the number one step, I believe, has to be taking advantage or being able to take out your own division. Just like when we talk about the Reds, who, by the way, just beat the Milwaukee Brewers 2-0 final score and avoided a 4-game sweep. It's important that we, face our own division. Now, in the playoffs, we're not facing our own division, which is great. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But, the overall concept of this is the essential part is that you have to take care of your own division. And when you take care of your own division, then things look well because they do affect a lot. When it comes down to having a tied record heading into September, and you take divisions into effect, and Minnesota definitely needs all the help they could get. So, but congratulations to Tristan McKenzie striking out 10 in his season debut. Not an easy task to handle. Chicago White Sox Liam Hendriks got his first win of 2023 on National Cancer Survivor Day. Hendriks earlier this year recently returned to the mound after being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma back in January. White Sox won their game on Sunday 6-2, and a come from behind victory against Detroit. Hendriks striked out 2 of 3 in the 9th inning. Congratulations to Liam Hendriks. And man, I'm going to tell you this: who says baseball cannot be a romantic sport? It's things like this. It's concerning. It's questions like this that really, really just make it, for me, emotional and just makes you enjoy the love of the game. It's going to be emotional when a guy like Damar Hamlin comes back and plays in his first game back after having a cardiac arrest on the field. So these sports are very, very emotional. Well, Pete Alonso and the New York Mets made some history over the weekend as he led and surpassed Lucas Duda with home run leaders at Citi Field. Now, this one for me was quite interesting. Citi Field has been open up since 2009. And Pete Alonso, who really surpassed a handful of great talent guys on this list like Duda, Michael Conforto, David Wright, Curtis Granderson, now holds the home run leader in center field, or not in Citi Field, excuse me, with 72 back on Sunday's game. The reason why this, I think, is more suppressing is because you don't see, I don't want to say you don't see, but how often do you see players last on a team long enough to be able to hit, to hold a record with the most home runs at the stadium? And, okay, so the City Field's only been in existence for 14 years, and Pete Alonso's only setting the record for 72. You'd imagine to be a lot higher, but again, there's a lot of Mets players that have come and gone. It's not really, it definitely shows in that case that, New York is not necessarily a home run friendly ballpark. So, and the thing is, there's a rarity of seeing statistics like this expand. Now, hopefully one day we'll see a guy like like Tyler Stevenson or Jake Fraley, hopefully, maybe, or even Elly De La Cruz for that factor, set the home run record for, home runs at Great American Ballpark, with how all those contracts being given out in San Diego. Wouldn't surprise me to not see something like that happens over the next 6-7 years. But that is, for me, this is a huge night. So congratulations to Pete Alonso, home run derby winner also. All right, show is continuing. We're going to head to the bottom of the hour here. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to wrap things back around to professional wrestling and much more still to come. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 9:33 back here at the program. Welcome on back here to The Throw-In. Not doing too shabby. Bottom half of the hour as we continue rolling, trying to find our groove. Like I said, it's going to probably take a couple of days to really get back into the swing of things. I really apologize for the inconvenience that it may cause people, but I gotta say, I gotta be honest. Calling baseball games to doing a 2-hour product where you think you got enough info, and I do. I got stories, I got conversations to talk about, but what ends up happening is that you end up really just catching up and talking about all that stuff, and time really goes by slow. And I'm looking at myself right here in the screen. I didn't realize how I've been in the sun the last couple of weeks. Kings Island's open up. Got a chance to walk out there. Went out to the Soak City Water Park out there. So, really just enjoyed myself. Just trying to get outside the house, go down to the pool lately. Notice like my shiny forehead on the screen, and it's much darker than expected or anticipated that I thought. And realistically, I'm getting a first look at it. But not too happy and not too pleased about that. But man, I had this list, and I'm like, this is going to take me right down to the bottom of the hour, and everything's going to pop up correctly. And I told you one of my biggest problems right now is dealing with, I'm taking Ozempic, which is an injection for type 2 diabetes, and it really messes up with the stomach and loses appetite. And I took it last week, and I really felt under the weather. Now, I wasn't feeling under the weather. My stomach was stinging. It didn't make me hungry. Not quite hungry right now, but I took it, and then I ate like 20 minutes later, And now I'm just like, oh, I'm just, belching over and over. So hopefully that passes. And when it takes me out, it takes me out. I noticed last week it took me out, but no. So hopefully that that wears up, and like I said, getting back into the swing of things, and summertime comes, and there's a lot more to talk about. And I'm going to talk about who later on this week, coming back June 17th. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan, but I'm going to hold off on that conversation until a bit later, to be honest, because we do not need to talk about it at this time, at this moment. But what we can talk about is the celebration for Roman Reigns. No. Let's get this celebration going correctly. Without further ado, celebrating his 1,000-day title reign is your Trible Chef and the head of the quote-unquote bloodline, Roman Reigns. All right, so I guess, where do we want to begin with this story? And I'm talking about last Friday night, where, as a matter of fact, we could take this back to Night of Champions, where Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa team up to face Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens for the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships. And, this was the same day that Roman Reigns has reigned, holding both the WWE and the Universal Championship simultaneously for 1,000 days, at least according to history. And I think that's really only dedicated to that WWE Championship. So, which is, it's a huge accomplishment, to hold a title for for multiple years. I think it's a huge accomplishment. And you do got to give him a lot of credit. Now, the match went on, Roman and had this mindset of, hey, Usos, you couldn't get the job done, not once and not twice. I'm not giving you a third option. We're going to take care of business, and we are going to bring the tag titles back home where they belong. And, the Usos snapped at Roman about, finally. And I'm going to say this about time, but now we're among what we like to consider a civil war among the bloodline. And that's the first thing that I saw when this all went down and we saw this. I'm like, all right, civil war. And it makes sense. And I actually like it. I think it's very catchy. Something that I think is going to blow off, and it's going to be a big thing, and it should be a big battle heading into SummerSlam, and I would even say a big battle heading into Survivor Series. This is going to, as we've said this on our program time and time and time again, and I'm going to stand by this. Just how long and how detailed this story between the growth of the bloodline took, and it took a couple of years, the way that the downfall has to descend should take at least a year, if not longer. Roman Reigns has gotten a little too comfortable in the position of being this leader of this family. And it's going to be time where, the journey is, the family's torn apart, and, one thing after the other slips. And we're starting off with the Usos finally standing up to Roman Reigns. And you have to thank Sami Zayn, and I'm going to also throw in Kevin Owens, because night in and night out, see, Sami and Kevin could have just won the tag team titles, went on their merry way, and said, all right, we're done. Let's go off and do something else. And it's right now, as I've been up and down with Raw, I know that Sami and Kevin's kind of encountering a problem with Imperium. But you can't tell me that Sami and Kevin's road against Imperium is still not. It's just as interesting as seeing the Usos and Sami and Kevin. And I think when it's not the Usos' problem, I feel like at this moment, yes, this feud between Sami, Kevin is, and the Usos and the bloodline, excuse me, done. Period. Over with. I get it. Kevin, Sami on Raw, they need to take care of whatever they need to take care of, and Triple H, and we'll talk about the titles here coming up next, but they took care of the titles. To go on and do what you got to do on Raw. Make your own feuds. All right. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about this, at a later date, but I surely want to see maybe by next year's WrestleMania, I will love to see Kevin and Sami Zayn go one-on-one against each other in a feud, because they tell such a great story in the ring. But I think one thing that troubles me watching the bloodline move forward is that you don't have that middleman like Sami Zayn, who kept it together for so long. He was able to either negotiate and communicate with the tribal chief, was able to keep the Usos intact together. But let me remind you about the bloodline. The bloodline is created not because of the Roman's championship. The bloodline's not created because of that Universal Championship or the WWE Championship. It's created because of those tag team titles that now they do not possess, and they're not even close to being anywhere near them because they're on a different brand. And, maybe Roman is getting too big for his bridges. Of course, I would definitely agree along certain time spots, certain spots of that, but about that. But, listen, the Usos don't want to split up the family. And I don't think there's a lot of fans out here that want to split up this family. But it's going to be a good story to tell. And this is what you're waiting for, and you have to wait for it. Make people wait for SummerSlam. Make people wait for Survivor Series, right? I mean, what's great about it is that you don't need Roman or the Usos there. Just how long that Brock and Cody, okay, which I did not even imagine going out to SummerSlam in the first place, okay, which, I was one of those guys, hands raised, I was one of those guys who expected Brock and Cody to be a one-off, and then it turned into match number 2. Now you got to have match number 3, but it really should be at WrestleMania, at SummerSlam, excuse me. So the bloodline needs to be the same way. Don't sugarcoat it. And I think it's absolutely tearing us apart because you don't want to wait. You got to see it. And we still have Money in the Bank, which, if you're asking me, I mean, can something can something like a preview of what we can see at SummerSlam happen? Of course, I can see that. But, man, the payoff is sweet. All right, because now, this is giving Roman Reigns a new direction this year on where to go down. And I still believe, a lot of, I'm going to go against what I said a couple back in April. This right here puts Dwayne Johnson still in the picture if they can come to some sort of an arrangement of having Johnson return to the ring. We're talking about The Rock here. And I know that's pretty far out there to say, but I strongly believe that that is something that can happen with how the downhill goes. And you asked for a WrestleMania match, and yes, I could see Rock and Reigns at Mania. I still believe that that title has to somehow get dropped by then, which means who would take the titles from them? Well, why not Solo Sikoa? But we're really jumping that far down in retrospect. We're gonna take our last. We're gonna actually take a quick break. Not gonna go all in. When we come back, let's talk about these two titles in comparison: the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Universal Championship. That's still all to come. Alrighty, we got the Italian Festival coming up June 8th through June 11th down there on Newport on the Levee. And it's a free admission. You guys can come on out and join us. If you guys would like to earn a little bit of money, volunteer today and keep your tips. Time slots still available. If you guys email enlightenedstudios.cincy@gmail.com, you can find out more information. That is enlightenedstudios.cincy@gmail.com for more information. Like I said at the beginning of the program, it's been quite some time since we've been back. Called some baseball games last week, and I'm excited to be back. I'm glad, and we're looking forward to having a program tomorrow, midday, hopefully, if all goes well. Don't want to promise you guys any times or anything like that, but we will be back tomorrow, and then we will be off Wednesday. My youngest is going to have her tonsils removed. I remember trying to get my wisdom teeth removed once, and then I think I was like fighting the doctor to the point where they just couldn't remove them. But this is kind of the first surgical procedure that my youngest has had to kind of go under anesthetic. And so I want to be there, and just going to dedicate the day to hanging out with her. And lucky her, she gets to eat all the ice cream in the world there. And then we also, but we'll be back Thursday, and we'll also Friday to wrap up the week, heading into the weekend. We're excited to be here, and we'll talk sports, talk baseball, football, wrestling, a lot more to come up tomorrow, or starting to work on that game plan. My oldest, she'll be 9 this year. I was playing with her one day. It was 2016. I was playing with her, 16, 17. Playing with her, and she ended up like tossing her up on the bed before I was going to work. Ended up breaking her arm by mistake. I know, but man, a lot of it. So that's how this week is going to come down here on the program. So be sure to stay tuned, have those notifications on, and don't go nowhere. If you guys are downloading us and listening to us on the road, we thank you and appreciate it. All right, let's talk about these new titles that were presented. Now, this new World Heavyweight Championship was crowned back at Night of Champions with Seth Rollins beating AJ Styles, and I mentioned back at the beginning of the program that this is a cool image. I've always been a fan of the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, I it's gonna get some getting used to seeing this title, first of all, being reimaged, and second of all, having it on Raw. Okay, and then that's just me. I grew up on SmackDown, and I grew up watching the World Heavyweight Championship be back and forth of, you know, of The Undertaker, Edge, Batista, Rey Mysterio, JBL, Booker T, all the greats on SmackDown. And I think it was only one time it went over to Raw. But, you know, I really. So it's going to be some used to. And it's not the exact same title as it was, you know. When I'm playing the WWE 2K23 video game, I'm using that, that I want to use that World Heavyweight Championship. And by the way, I can't seem to find it. On the I don't know if they removed it or whatever the case may be. My second thing is that okay. So what are your thoughts? Because honestly, I really did like the idea of combining both titles, the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship, given that it was displayed and defended properly. And I'm not going to sit here and blame Roman Reigns because that was not his fault. Okay. I'm going to blame the creative team and then the lack of talent that was capable of contending for him, and then the way that his contract was negotiated. That is the way I'm going to blame things on, because it could have worked out for the best. But in order for that to have worked out, what we needed to see was Roman jumping back and forth between Raw and between SmackDown, and then we needed to see him defend it, once a month, and just going back and forth. So let's pop this up here real quick. Take a look at this image. The World Heavyweight Championship is up top, and it kind of looks identical to the World Heavyweight Championship, although the WWE logo is more highlighted in the center. And then they took some, previous belts and they combined them, remarking history. And the WWE Championship is one big gold belt, the Universal Championship. Now, Roman Reigns was given this Universal Championship back on SmackDown in honorary of his 1,000-day celebration. So, first of all, I do like how both of these titles are a bit different. I do want to, it's acceptable for me. The one thing that comes to mind on seeing these new these new belts being displayed into WWE, and I like it because there's a new image, and it's a sense where hopefully down the road we can see the same happen to the tag team titles, and the same happen, have the World Tag Team titles, have the WWE Tag Team titles, whatever that case shall be. But then we also need to see the same thing happen to the Women's Championship, because, listen, it was a good idea 7 years ago, but, we need to now, I think these athletes deserve a bit more to carry other than wearing a WWE belt that almost anyone can make, and has just the red and black, blue stripe. Here's all I'm going to say is that this is part of that new image. I like the new image as long as it holds water. And what I mean by that is that as long as the WWE, and these athletes continue to defend and to fight for these titles and to, give them the respect that they deserve, then I'm all for it. I think that they have two great champions behind them. Roman Reigns for years, Seth Rollins holding down the fort like we talked about at the beginning of the program. But it truly, for me, comes down to understanding, all right, they need to be defended on a monthly basis, and they need to have talent come up with it. That's how the WWE Championship, that's how the World Heavyweight Championship for years were defended and represented. You had new challengers left and right. They were defended on the Raw, on the SmackDown, on pay-per-views, on premium lives, once, twice a month, every week. Whatever the case may be, they need to be defended. Even if they're not replaced, changing hands, they do need to be defended. Not once every month, once every 2 or 3 months. For me, that's a fighting champion. I don't know if the WWE is ever going to get back around to it, but there's not one. I'm gonna. If you got to ask me which belt you like the best, I like the World Heavyweight Championship belt. Matter of fact, I have a World Heavyweight Championship belt back here in its case, bag that hopefully I can eventually get the new one, and we can have both of them side by side and look at the comparison. All right, 2 hours have come and gone. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We will be back again tomorrow. Be sure to hit those like, shares, and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to have those notifications on. Check out our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Guys, take care. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Throne here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.